Hello everyone, myself Pralay Ghosh. I'm a Tgt English of Kendriya Vidyalaya number 2 Itanagar, and my today's topic is The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost, and it is taken from the book Beehive of class 9. So let's start. First comes to the introduction of the poet. About the poet Robert Frost. Robert Frost was born on March 26, 1874, one of the most celebrated poets in America. Robert Frost's work was highly associated to rural life in New England. The poet often uses the New England setting to explore complicated philosophical and social themes. As a well known and often quoted poet, Robert Frost was highly honored during his presence on Earth, receiving four Pulitzer Prizes. He wrote some important uh, poems, uh, fictions, all the things. And some of them is Mending Wall, Directive, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, which was a, which is a marvelous and most notable poem of Robert Frost. Nothing Gold Can Stay, Fire and Ice, and more. Robert Frost died in Boston on 29th January 1963. So it is the basic description of the poet. Now, move on to the next segment, the introduction of the poem. We often get confused between two things. Sometimes we are not in a position to decide what to do. People always prefer the easiest way to achieve something or to reach their goal by, but there are few who want to achieve their target or reach their destination by choosing the difficult way. It is something unique. It is unique in the sense that they know that it is going to be a risky decision for them to choose the difficult path, but they take it as a challenge. Suppose you want to become a cricketer, but your parents want you to become a doctor by profession. But you just hurt yourself and take admission in a cricket academy to pursue your dream, despite knowing the fact that this is going to be a risky one as you are going against your parents' will. This poem is also about this kind of dilemma, where the poet was not in a position to decide which road he has to take after seeing the two roads are diverged in a yellow wood. Finally, he took the road which is less traveled by. He is also of the opinion that in future he might not be in a position to return to the same road, but he would feel contented as he took the another road to walk on. So this was the introduction of the poem to you. Okay. It's a matter of great pleasure to listen to the recitation of a poem by the poet himself, means in his own voice. So listen to it very carefully.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood, looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth, then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
So, learners, hope you enjoyed the recitation done by Robert Frost a lot. It was remarkable. So, move on to the text itself. So, as you can see that there are 5 lines in each stanzas and there are 4 stanzas. So, there are 20 lines and start from the first. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood. And sorry, I could not travel both. And with one traveller, long I stood, and looked down one as far as I could, to where it bent in the undergrowth. So, as you can see that there is a fork. What is the fork here? Fork means a place where single thing divides into two more parts. Okay, so this is the fork and all the things, and there are the two rows divides. Okay, and the poet standing on here. So, and this is the yellow wood, and this is the setting of the forest. The poet informs his reader that there are two roads at the fork in the woods. He adds that the forest is yellow, it is autumn, and at this time trees shed their leaves. So, by seeing the picture, you can assume that this is the autumn season, and in this season, the trees shed their leaves. By setting the poem in the woods in autumn, Frost creates a sense of silence and tone of melancholy. Melancholy means gloomy, the sadness. So poets standing alone in the at the fork, and he was not in a position to decide whether he should go by this road or this road. Now, I'm sorry I could not travel both, and with one traveler long I stood. The poet shows regret for not being able to travel both the roads at the same time. He stands on the crossroad for a long time and try and decide the path he should follow. This is the main thing. And look down one as far as I could to where it bent undergrowth. The poet looked down one of the roads as far as his vision could reach. He could see only as far as the path took a bend at the thick undergrowth. At this point, let us think about the metaphorical meaning of the poem. There are some inner meanings of the poem, okay? Let us assume that roads represent the decision we make and the fork represents the choice we have in life. And the undergrowth are uncertainties of life. The poet is at the crossroad of his life and not on an actual road. He could be trying to see further ahead into the future but is unable to do. So he has to be cautious but in his choice. So the poet standing here and he was not in a position to decide whether to go, and and there are some uncertainties also there that uh, if it take if it takes this road, there may be some uncertainties. If we take this road, there may be some uncertainties. So there are some uncertainties. Okay, now move on to the next stanza, that is, then took the other, just as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim, because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that passing there, had worn them really about the same. The poet makes his decision. Since both paths seem to be similar, he will take the other. The poet says, just as fair, not fairer. So we may assume the roads are similar in appearance. Both the roads are equally good. You can see that both the roads are equally good. So the choice may also equally good. So he has to make some choice. And having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. So in these lines, poet justifies his choice as the path is grassy and not much walked on by traveler. Therefore, this road needed to be used and worn out too. Suppose this road is worn out and the poet wants to go this road because This road is not worn out and it is needed to be worn out too. Now move on to the next line. Though as for that passing there, had worn them really about the same. Here, the poet is again expressing the confusion that goes on his mind to make the final choice. The hesitation in taking a decision as the prospect offered by trading either of the routes seem to be very similar. Okay, now move on to the next stanza that is, and both that morning equal lay, in leaves no stave had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day, yet knowing how way the leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Now, in this stanza, what does the poet think? Once again, the poet says the roads seem equal, but with a difference. The speaker gives us a new information. That is, it is morning, and that both the roads seem covered with leaves, and that no traveler has walked on the way. He comes to his conclusion because the fallen leaves are not crushed by the foot's steps and thus not darkened. Here, the word morning may also be analyzed as the poet starts from the very beginning and realize that there is no change with regard to the clarity in the situation. It continued to be as confusing as it was earlier. Okay, so now next line it is, oh, I kept the first for another day. It is an important line for you. The poet seems to be regretting his decision already. The sentence is emphatic as it starts with oh and ends with an exclamation. He strongly feels that he should take the road to know what it had in store, since he already knew what was on the road taken. Metaphorically in life, we rethink about our choice, but it is not easy to revert back to the clock, as time and tides wait for none. So this is the thought that was going on the poet's mind. Yet knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I should ever come back. Now, the poet realizes he may never be able to return to take the road not taken. For he understands that in the journey of life, we may come across many crossroads and forks and make fresh decisions and choices. So, in all practicality, it may not be feasible to start afresh, especially in the later part of our life. Now move on to the last stanza. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less trouble by, and that has made all the difference. This stanza is entirely written in future tense. I shall. Here the poet hopes to talk the decision taken years later with a sigh. The sigh may be sad, happy, or reflective, whatever it may be. It would be definitely have made a difference in his life. This line, uh, this line, the two rows diverge in Yulud and I. This line is a repetition of the first line with the exclusion of Yulu and an inclusion of and I with a dash. The and I shows the speaker is hesitant of the future. The repetition helps to bring the poem to a close. The last two lines, I took the one less troubled by, and that has made all the difference. Here the poet confidently informs of his decision. He had dared to take the road that many fears to tread. It is an indication that the poet was adventurous and of independent thought. However, the concluding lines give us a feeling that the choice he took had definitely made a significant impact in his life. Okay, so this was the poem for you and the explanation of the poem lines by lines. Hope you understand the poem. Now, move on to the next part, that is the summary of the story of the poem. The summary of the poem. Okay. So, this poem is written by Robert Frost. The poet was standing in front of a jungle. There were two roads diverged in the jungle. The poet wanted to take a journey on both roads, but he felt very sorry that, being one traveler, he could not travel both roads. He had to choose only one road to travel. So the traveler stood there and looked at the roads. The poet was very confused in choosing the road. And then he took a decision. He chose the road which was grassy and wanted wear. Both the roads were looking same on that day because no one had traveled on those roads yet, and the leaves on the roads were fresh and had not turned black, which proved that nobody had traveled on those roads. The poet left the first road for another day. But he was in a doubt whether he would be able to come back and travel on that road. The poet knew that one had to be very careful in making choice for future, because when a person chose a choice and began to work for that, then it is very difficult to change the choice and to take another choice. This very choice makes too much difference in one's life. So the poets here in the poem conveys the idea that one should be able one should be very careful in choosing his career. Now, move on to the next part, some rhyming scheme and new words. The road not taken consists of four stanzas of five lines, and the rhyme scheme is AB, AAB. So, see that would, both, stood, could, growth. If I take it A, okay, A, B, A, B. Like would, stood, could. It is A. Both, growth. B, B. So it is A, B, A, B. So it is the rhyme scheme of the poem. Similarly, fair, claim, where they are same. So this is fair A, where A, there A, and now claim and same B, B. Okay, so this is the rhyme scheme of the poem. Hope you understand it. Now move on to some important word meanings like diverged. Diverse means separated and took a different direction. Next, yellow wood, a forest with a decomposing leaves. Undergrowth, dense growth of plants and bushes mean the forest. Fair, as good as the other one. Claim, better option. Grassy, unused. Wanted where, had not been used. Trodden means walked over. Sigh, deep breath. Hence, here in the future. So these are the important word meanings of the poem. Okay, here the now there is some important question and answer regarding the text. First one is that where does the traveler find himself and what problem does he face? The answer may be simple. The traveler finds himself in a yellow wood at the point where the road forks into two. The problem that he faces that he cannot decide which road to take to continue his journey, since it is not possible for him to travel both roads at the same time. So he is in a dilemma that which road he should take. Okay, the grassy one or the not grassy one. Okay, now discuss what this phrase means to you. A yellow wood, it was grassy and wanted where, the passing there, leaves no step at trodden black, how way leads on to way. Answer would be that like that. Yellow wood symbolizes autumn season. Autumn corresponded to old age. The poet could be symbolically talking about the later stages of life. Second one, it conveys that the road was full of grass and nobody has used that road. It was a smooth road which had not worn out. Third one is that the use of the path by the passers-by. Fourth one is that the leaves had not changed their color and turned black because of the less people stepping on them. It could represent a path one may have never taken in life for the fear of uncertainty. Fifth one is that this phrase means how certain decisions one makes in life could pave the way for many other. So now it's time for more solved question. That is, first question is there any difference between the two rows that the poet describes them, one in stanza 2 and 3, or in stanza, or in the last two lines of the poem? The first answer is in stanza 2, the poet explains that the only difference between the two roads was that the road he took had the right to be chosen, or the better claim, because it was covered with grass and looked as if it had not been used too much. Besides this difference, both roads had been equally worn down by passers-by traveling on them. In stanza 3, the poet says that both the roads were equally covered with leaves and that no person had stepped on. So, from the first answer, it is very much clear that the poet had chosen the difficult one because it was not traveled by many others. Okay, so the poet thought that I should utilize this road to achieve my target, or I should go in this road because there would be some adventure. Though he didn't know that what will be its consequences or what will be the result, but poet had got the guts and he just traveled on the road. Okay, and he left the road for the another day. In the last two lines of the poem, the poet says that there is a difference between the two roads because he took the road that was less traveled by the other people, and that made the all difference to his journey. So, what made his all the difference to his journey? That he had chose the another road. This is the this causes that all his journey was. Now comes to question number 4. What do you think the last two lines of the poet means? Of the poem means? The last two lines of the poem mean the acceptance of reality. The poet made a choice and accepted the challenging path. He took an unexplored path in his life. He wanted to do something different in his life, so he chooses the less traveled road. No, he does not regret his choice. So the poet is of the thinking that he has chosen the right one and he does not regret his choice. Okay, so this is the solved questions. Now, there are some questions for evaluation. Okay, read the text and try to answer the questions and send me all the question accordingly. Okay, so first question is that what is the so now there are some question for evaluations. Please read the text carefully and do all the questions and send me the answers. So the first question is that who is the poet of this poem? What do you know about him? Second one is that have you ever been to a jungle earlier? If yes, describe the experience. Third one is that what is the significance of the two roads in the poem? Fourth one is that what do the roads represent? Fifth one, what is the message of the poem? Then describe the condition of the both roads that lay open before the poet that morning. And last one, I took the road less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. What is the speaker trying to convey? So, prepare the question and send me all the answer. Thank you for watching the video. Have a great day.